Nowadays, we have over 50 million people worldwide living with Alzheimer's. And that is Alzheimer's alone. I'm not talking about vascular dementia, I'm not talking about Lewy body dementia, frontotemporal dementia, and all the other kinds of dementia that we have. I'm talking about Alzheimer's, so we have over 50 million people worldwide. And by 2050, that number is expected to increase by over 150 million people worldwide. If you are like me and you have a relative who has Alzheimer's, you may be thinking that your chances of having it as well are increased. And sometimes you may think that you're doomed to having Alzheimer's, but is there something that we can do about it? Well, in this video, I'm going to tell you not one thing that you can do about it, but actually 5 things that you can do to prevent Alzheimer's. And if you like our content, please hit the like and subscribe button. So let's go. Preventing dementia, a guide in building a resilient brain. When I talk about Alzheimer's, we only think about older people in their 60s, 70s, 80s, but actually Alzheimer's starts decades before the first symptoms arise. Around 15 to 20 years before you have the first symptom of Alzheimer's, your brain is already building those plaques that will build up and end up with the actual symptoms. And it is very important to emphasize that because there are things that we can do in our 30s, 40s, 50s to prevent Alzheimer's from happening. One thing that I said in other videos, if you want to watch other of my videos, I say this, but I'm going to say it here again. The pathophysiology of Alzheimer's disease, it's basically the building up, the accumulation of trash, both outside of your brain cells and inside of your brain cells. Outside of your brain cells, you have these amyloid plaques. It's this orange thing that prevents the neurons from communicating because we have this gap between one brain cell and the other brain cell, and this trash, it accumulates outside of the neurons and jeopardizes their communication. So the first thing that we should do to prevent dementia, to prevent specifically Alzheimer's, is sleep. Try to sleep at least 7 to 9 hours a day. It varies. Some people sleep 7 hours and they feel okay. Some people need to sleep 8 or 9 hours. It depends on each person, but usually from 7 to 9 hours a day, it's usually sufficient. And what happens when you are sleeping is that your janitors, your glial cells, they take away this trash, they take away this amyloid plaques outside of the neurons. And if you don't sleep properly, the janitor cannot do their work. They are working during the night. They have this night shift. They are cleaning during the night shift. But if you wake up in the middle of the night or if you don't sleep well enough, then you are preventing those janitors from doing their job, from taking away that trash. So first thing, sleep well. Another thing that is so important, and I even made a separate video about it because it's so important, it's what you feed off. What are you eating? That's absolutely of major importance. And we should try to avoid ultra-processed foods, high sugar foods, high carbohydrate foods. So that's not good. Avocado, that's good. That's why some people call Alzheimer's the type 3 diabetes, because your brain becomes insulin resistant, and then all that sugar inside of your blood vessels, it starts to damage your vessels and starts to damage your brain cells and your brain. So just by changing that, just by, for example, eating more dark leafy greens, you slow your brain from aging by 11 years just by eating better. And if you want to know more about eating specifically, what kind of diets that you should take, like the Mediterranean diet, the Mind diet, the Nordic diet, I made a separate video about it and I hope you watch it. Basically, a lot of greens, a lot of fish, a lot of extra virgin olive oil, a lot of fruits, and low carbohydrates, low sugars. Another thing that is absolutely important, and it's the third thing. So we already said about sleeping, diet, and now exercise. Third thing, exercise. Specifically, aerobic exercise. It's the kind of exercise that you're sweating. You may be able to talk while you're doing it, but you're not able to sing, like running, jogging, bicycle, swimming, things like that. This kind of exercise, it actually helps your brain cells to grow. So it is a must do. And which kind of exercise is better? Well, I said aerobic exercise, the one that you sweat, but the main one is the one that you like. Because if you're doing something that you absolutely hate, you're not going to stick with it. You're not going to do it 3, 4, 5 times a week. But if you're doing something that you actually like, and if you're doing it with somebody that you actually like, if you have this kind of accountability, if you're doing it with a friend, your spouse, then it is more likely that you will do it more often. And that is the key. Do it regularly. Make it a habit. Now, this one is the fourth one. So we talked about sleep, diet, exercise. So this is the fourth one, which is reduce stress. I read this amazing book recently and that I highly recommend, which is called 10% Happier. And it basically talks about meditation and how meditation may make you happier and will make you healthier. So chronic stress, it shrinks your brain, whereas meditation, relaxation, mindfulness, it restores your brain. So meditation is a must do, and I highly recommend it to you. Now, finally, the fifth thing that you must do to prevent dementia, build new roads. And what do I mean by build new roads? You have to build a cognitive reserve. Okay, what do you mean by cognitive reserve? There was this study with 678 nuns. And it found out basically that many of those nuns, when they died, they donated their brains. And when researchers were looking at their brains, they found Alzheimer's. They found plaques. They found brain shrinking. But during their lives, they showed absolutely no signs of Alzheimer's. And the reason for that is that they built reserve. So, for example, let's say you only have one path, you only have one road in your brain. So, if that road gets a lot of trash, gets this amyloid plaque, then you're not going to be able to use that road anymore. And if you only have that one, then you're doomed. You get Alzheimer's. But if you have several roads, then your memories can go through other roads. It means basically that the more that you have, the more memories that you have, the more knowledge that you have, the more things that you have learned throughout your life. When old age comes, you will be more resilient and you will not develop Alzheimer's. You will not develop the symptoms, although if you look under a microscope, your brain might have it. And how do you do that? How do you build these new connections? How do you build this cognitive reserve? Well, basically by learning new things. Learn how to play an instrument. Learn how to paint. Read a lot of books. Don't stick to just the things that you already know. Okay, I'm doing crosswords, but that's good. I'm not saying that's not good. That's good. But maybe that's something that you already know. Try to learn something new. Try to get out of your comfort zone. And now this is an extra one that's very important to talk about: loneliness. When we get older, we tend to be more lonely. Sometimes our children, they go away, they live in another state, another province. Sometimes the partner that we had for our whole lives, for 50 years, they pass away and we suddenly become so lonely. So another thing that we need to do is to build relationships. A man is not an island. We have to connect with other people. We have other people to talk to engage, to sing with us, to play with us. So make new friends. Keep your friendship with the older friends. Call your kids. Have them to call you. Do not stay alone. You are not alone. Finally, what I would like to say is that DNA is not destiny. Just because your mother, your father, your grandfather, the dementia, it does not mean that you will have dementia. And actually, these genetic cases of dementia, they are only 2% of the cases of Alzheimer's. 98% of the cases are not linked specifically to this genetic predisposition, and therefore there are things that we can do to prevent it. And even in those cases that you have this genetic predisposition, if you do five things and this extra thing that I told you about, you will be able to reduce your risk of developing dementia for up to 50%. You have a 50% lower risk of developing dementia. So just to wrap up, sleep well, eat well, eat green stuff, olive oil, fish, move, work out, exercise, read, learn new things, connect with other people. Take care of your heart. If your heart's not healthy, your brain will not be healthy. And finally, start today. I'm in my 30s. Okay, start today. You are preventing, you are working on yourself from 20 from now. So start today. And if you're already on your 60 or 70, start today as well. You can still prevent it and you can still have a meaningful, happy life. See you at your next appointment.